One of the questions that I got this year more than ever, more than any other year, was why we cannot have a minyan on Zoom. I was asked this question many times, maybe hundreds of times, during this year, especially in the first few months, when we had only services on Zoom during the week, every day. And people ask, why cannot say Kaddish on Zoom? Why cannot do the repetition of the Amidah? Or when we do the Marif service every Thursday night, same thing. This year, the first Seder is Saturday night. It's not a usual thing. Usually it doesn't happen on Saturday night. It's very rare that the first Seder should be on Saturday night. It's not the norm, I would say. When was the first Seder last year? Which day of the week was it last year, the first Seder? Because I cannot hear you, I will have to give the answers too. The answer is it was Wednesday night. Last year, the first Seder was Wednesday night. This year, the first Seder is Saturday night. I have some very interesting to share with you. The first year when the Jews left Egypt was the same thing. When the first year when they were still in Egypt, and Moses told them to make a Seder. What does a Seder at that time? To take the Passover lamb, to take him on the 10th of the month in the Nisan and to slaughter him in the house. The Seder was on Wednesday night. They took the lamb 4 days before on Sunday. By Wednesday, they slaughtered the lamb in their own backyard, put the little bit of blood on the doorpost, and then the main thing was you have to eat the meal, the lamb in your house behind closed doors, right? Why? Because the angel of death is going to go out and he will kill all the firstborn Egyptian. And if your door will be closed, he will pass over the houses, the Jewish homes, with the blood on the doorpost. And you will not be, and the Jews will not be hurt. Sounds too familiar to what happened to us last year. Be inside, don't go out, lock your doors. He was scared to death. It was a trauma that we will never forget. So unusual to what the Seder is all about. Many people coming together, opening the door for Elijah, enjoying everything behind closed doors, just like the first year in Egypt. Then it was a pandemic, running on the streets, and last year was a pandemic. A year later, the Jews were in the desert. It was a whole different story. 2 weeks before Pesach in the desert, they inaugurated the temple, the portable sanctuary, the Mishkan that was in the desert. That was Rosh Chodesh Nisan, 2 weeks before Pesach. And on that Pesach, they were celebrating the first Pesach in the desert. This time, they couldn't offer the sacrifices in their own backyard. They had to come to the temple, to the sanctuary, to the Mishkan, and right there was one altar, and everybody had to come together to the same place to offer the altar, to offer the sacrifice. Only in this place, together. Nobody can do it in his own house. Yes, later you should go home to your own tent and eat the meal. But where is the offering, the sacrifice took place? In the sanctuary. Everybody together. What changed between the 2 years? Between the first year in Egypt on Wednesday night and the second year in the desert on Saturday night, just like last year and this year. What changed in the middle was Mount Sinai. On Mount Sinai, before Mount Sinai, the Jewish people were a bunch of individuals from the same family, were individuals. There was no glue. On Mount Sinai, God made them into a people, into a nation. When they were camping in front of the mountain, united as one, then they became a people. They became responsible for each other. They became a community, a tzibur, a unit, a community that is responsible for each other. That's what happened on Mount Sinai. Therefore, the coming year, when they offered the Passover lamb, this time they couldn't do it as individuals in their own backyard. They had to do it together in one place, in the temple. One of the traumas that we experienced in this past year was the closings of the synagogues. You see, Jewish people are used to that the synagogue is open 365 days of the year. There is services every morning, every evening. It's never closed. A synagogue is never closed. What is a synagogue? A synagogue is a replacement. Is instead of the temple that used to be in Jerusalem. The temple in Jerusalem, the first temple, who stood for 410 years. The second temple stood for 420 years. The portable sanctuary before that, it was always open. Just like a synagogue, you cannot close down. If you need to do renovations, you find for the synagogue a different place, and only then you close the renovations. The temple was always open. Every morning and every evening was a sacrifice offered them. Never closed. As long as it was under the control of the Jewish people, when they were able, not when the enemies took over, it was always a service, no matter what happened. Winter, summer, cold, didn't make any difference. Even on Shabbat. You know, on Shabbat, you're not allowed to offer sacrifices. You're not allowed to make a fire. It's written in the Torah, you're not allowed to make a fire. But in the temple is to make a fire and offer sacrifices on Shabbat, because it has to be every day, every morning and every evening. But, and this is a big but, during the year, which offering they could bring on Shabbat? Community offerings. Offerings that represent the whole community as a whole. Only these offerings were allowed to be bought on Shabbat. Offerings that individual offerings, this you couldn't bring on Shabbat. Let's say somebody wants to bring, he is thankful to God. He wants to say thank you to God. He won the lottery. A miracle took place. He recovered from a terrible sickness. He wants to bring an offering. Or somebody who by mistake ate on Yom Kippur and he feels terribly guilty and he wants to bring a sin offering to the temple. A personal offering, you can bring 6 days of the week, from Sunday to Friday. On Shabbat, no personal offerings. Only community offerings, only offerings that represent the whole community. That's the difference between Shabbat and the rest of the week. Korban Pesach, the Passover lamb, they used to offer him even when it happened to be on Shabbat. As the first year in the desert, you see if the Seder is Saturday night, you offer the sacrifice during the day before the Seder, and you eat the meat during the Seder in the time of the temple. This offering had to be offered on Shabbat, was allowed to be offered on Shabbat. Why? Because it's considered a community sacrifice. Even every individual brings his own lamb to the temple. Every individual, every 50 people, but it's an individual thing. You have to find your own place, your own way, make your own arrangement of the sacrifice. But because they used to sacrifice it in the same place, inside the temple, it's considered a community sacrifice. It's a tzibur. It's something that belongs to everyone. What is a tzibur? In Hebrew, community is called a tzibur. Tzibur is an acronym for 3 words. Tzadikim, Beinonim, Vereshaim. Righteous people, intermediate people, not bad and not good, not great and not terrible, and Reshaim means wicked people. A tzibur, a community, is a combination of everything together. That's what the community is all about. Even a person who committed the worst crime, even he can join the community, can join the minyan. Nobody is ostracized. You see, when somebody comes to the synagogue, we don't ask him, what is your job? Which background you have? From which community you're Ashkenazi, you're Sephardi? No questions. Are you rich? Are you smart? A synagogue is for everyone, all kinds of people, all types of people. That's what a community is all about, uniting everybody together. That's what's so unique about a synagogue. A community cannot be created on Zoom. You know, there is the famous story that when Moses came down from Mount Sinai the second time, and his face was shining. It was, a light came out from his face. People were afraid to look at him, and he had to put like a mask, something to cover his face. A face mask, what do you do now? You know, there is some Jews, when they sit on Zoom, they close the window because they don't want us to see the shining of the holy face, the spiritual light that comes from the holy face. They don't want us to see it because they're afraid that it will go crazy, will be too much for us, that they close the little window and we cannot even see them. Those who are so brave and open the window and we can actually see their holy face, even them, what you can see in the window, just your face. That's it. You see, in the synagogue, people come together. It's much more than just a synagogue. Synagogue is the ultimate Jewish club, but not just for special people, for the rich, for the people who are connected, for everyone. In a synagogue, you can have a conversation with your friend, a personal conversation. On the Zoom, you cannot do it. In the synagogue, you have a personal conversation. The only one who might overhear the conversation is the people who sit in the row in front of you, or the people sit in the row back behind you. Well, that's it. At least only 5 people can hear you. On Zoom, if you cannot have a conversation with an individual, everybody is listening to you. That's why everybody is afraid to talk on the Zoom. In the synagogue, you're creating a community. That's the beauty of a synagogue. And that's why Jewish law says, where you can create a community, a tzibur. Where can you say Kaddish in a community? It's a community. Only when people are physically together. Look, when you're on Zoom, nobody can give you a compliment. Oh, you lost so much weight, you look amazing. Nobody knows if you lost weight or you gained weight. You walk into shul, people can give you a compliment. You look so good. People know if you're sad, you're happy, they talk to you. All of this cannot happen on Zoom. Therefore, Jewish law, I don't know if therefore what Jewish law said, that how you make a tzibur, you make a community, how you make a community, only when people come together. The Zoom was good last year. For Egypt, it was good Zoom. When everybody was in his own house, we had to lock the doors. When you came out from Egypt and you have 3 people, no more Zooms. It's time to come together in a shul, in a physical shul, coming together now that most of the people are vaccinated or could get vaccinated. Get yourself vaccinated, come back to shul, be together physically. And that's how we build together a united community. Thank you for joining.